Hello, you guys. Oops, too much light. Thank you so much for letting me in your day, in your life, in your attention. I got back here so we can continue. There I go, repositioning again. So I'm here to continue the tarot class. Yesterday we stopped at the Emperor. And yes, just from relating, I did this material myself in name of Love and Moon Boutique that has been making this time and space come true. And if you want to download the material, you can find it by becoming a membership at loveandmoonboutique.com, okay? The reason why I prepared the material, and it looks a little academical to me, I'm not so fond of it, but it has some good purposes. It keeps me on time, it keeps me focused, because when we're talking about symbols that represents so many things that can deeply and largely speak to our intuition, these things can go through a lot of information, and that would mean a lot of time to explore the subconscious mind and the meaning of the card, and to not get lost and to not lose the limit time for each card. uh, I'm going to go through the material. That means I will be reading it. I'll be sharing it with you here on screen. And afterwards, after each card, as we did yesterday, after each card, we're going to stop for a moment to reflect upon it. Okay? Uh, this series, as I said yesterday too, this series is talking about the 22 major arcana cards. Just as a starting point, okay, for us to start understanding the tarot and get familiarized with it, I've got to say to you, this is not enough, and I have to be honest about this because what is actually advised among tarot readers is that the person should take the card in his hands and observe it for quite some time. For some days, they say you should sleep on it because it's a lot of information and so much can be brought to you by looking at it. And that is a really important part of when you're going to throw the tarot set for someone. Because um, sometimes it's not only about the technical meaning of the cards. I mean, of course, that the technical meaning of the cards, they have a lot of value and they're there for a reason and they are being truthful, but they don't represent everything. And when you are reading a card, if something comes to your mind, that is also part of the expression of that card, so it counts. Most of all because the same card sometimes can bring to you different things, and that will be totally related to the fact that you're reading in different situations or for different people. So when I talk about what you feel with the card and what you can perceive from the card, that is really important as part of the answer that you're going to give to your client or your, yes, your consultee, I suppose. Okay. Also because I was having trouble to find a way in showing my cards in here and to not let the reflex of the lights of the ambience to cause a reflex on it and not be seenable by the camera. So also because of that, I chose to put this material here on PowerPoint, but you will be able to see that the cards are in Portuguese because I wasn't finding a pattern on Google of all the cards being from the same brand and the same type of drawing and everything. And because of that, I stopped trying to get from the internet, and I actually decided to take pictures of the tarot that I have, my own tarot. So you will see that the bottom name of it is in Portuguese, but you will see that on the slide, you will see the name in English. Also, I wish I could present for you with that button that makes the presentation go bigger, but for some reason I don't understand why. When I do that, the screen goes black, and it has happened twice. And because of that, I won't be presenting the whole thing. I will just be sharing with you the PowerPoint as when someone is preparing it, okay? So let me share with you the content so we can continue from where I stopped yesterday. Okay. Is this where I am? Yes, this was the Emperor. We did the whole Emperor. And yes, the Hierophant. One really important thing to remember, that is the first thing that comes to my mind when we're talking about the Hierophant, is the fact that he is a piece of connection. Let's talk of him like a bridge. He's like a bridge, meaning he has the access to the informations of the spiritual realms, and he gets to bridge his spirit to that place to get the messages and pass here for us, okay? So, and this is really important to have as a first thing in your mind, because when you're talking of that bridge and when you're having a tarot consultation and that card appears, it is literally talking about a bridge, a person that is like a bridge, some sort of mentor that can do that favor for you, connect from the messages of beyond to bring to earth. And you're probably knowing a person like that in your life, okay? But let's go to the technical part and later the better reflections, okay? So, the imagery. The Hierophant, often seen as the Pope or a spiritual teacher, sits between two pillars symbolizing law and liberty. He holds a triple cross scepter representing the connection between heaven and earth and the underworld. Two acolytes kneel before him, indicating the transmission of spiritual knowledge and tradition. Mm, So it's like this. This being is represented by a lot of kind of balance, but in a spiritualized way. Because when you see the Hierophant all in red with so many crosses, you're talking about a lot of spiritual protection. And not only that, but some sort of severe, not severe as in judgmental, not severe as in rigid, but severe as in very serious, okay? So when we're talking about uh he's gone, his red gone with so many crosses, some white straps on it, a tripled cross, and a golden crown on the top of his head. We're talking about someone who is spiritually enriched and conscious, and with seventh chakra developed. Not only that, the red means a lot of protection, but when I talk about balance, is because there are lots of symbols in this card that are trying to be symmetrical, and not only about the symmetry of it, because of course the symmetry of it is highly important when we're talking about spirituality plus earth plus the underworld, right? But there are a lot of symbols that represents the middle path. When I talk about the middle path, I mean the path of balance, the path of the Jedi, the path of those who are trying to be not exactly about being stoic, not exactly about being noble, but kind of those two. But it is more related not to what others will think of them, but they're actually containing the good energy for themselves. And the idea of the middle path, the path of balance, the path of the neutral, the path of absence of excessive emotions, I would suppose, is talking about someone in a really huge spiritual search. Okay. So the Pope is a good representative of what they used to call the pharaohs in the back of the times, that they were supposed to be the bridge between the spiritual realms and earth, right? There's more, so let's continue a little bit to the technical part of it. I wish it wasn't so small, so let me enhance the size of the text so I can. I wish I could know if the screen is black. I'm sorry if for some reason I'm having technical issues with image. Okay, so in the upright position, the Hierophant represents tradition, spiritual authority, and the guidance of established systems. He symbolizes the importance of learning within structured environments and the transmission of spiritual knowledge through established doctrines. Philosophically speaking, the Hierophant speaks to the value of tradition, ritual, and the collective wisdom passed down through generations. Psychologically speaking, he represents the inner teacher or mentor guiding the seekers towards deeper understanding within the framework of existing beliefs. And mystically speaking, the Hierophant is the bridge between the divine and the mundane world, offering access to higher wisdom through the adherence to spiritual practices. Yes, it's true. There is also about the ritualistic part of it. When it's reversed, the Hierophant may indicate a challenge to authority or tradition, a questioning of established beliefs, or a desire for spiritual independence. It can suggest a rebellion against conventional norms or an exploration of alternative spiritual paths. Psychologically speaking, the reversed hierophant reflects the tension between conformity and individuality and the struggle to find one's own truth within or outside established systems. And mystically speaking, this card encourages a deeper exploration of a spirituality that goes beyond the surface level of religious practices, urging the seeker to discover their own connection to the divine. Interesting part of it is at the same time that it's talking about a rebellious spirit because it's going against established beliefs and is trying to establish an unconventional path of spirituality, it also defends the idea to go for it. I don't know if you got that as much as I did. But yes, because think about this with me, spirituality is not about following rituals established by no religions at all. Okay? It's not that they don't have a value, and they do. I know that they do, and I have seen with my own eyes that they do. Okay, so I do know the value of the ritualistic of the churches from all their types. It's not for no reason that this is so spoken of about the people who are so financially empowered, right? And I do respect all the religions, okay? I welcome all of them because I do believe that they are several touches into several steps into the truth from different perspectives and different explanations, because culturally speaking it would be impossible to explain something so big and so unlimited always in the same way. It's so limited, right? It's beyond. So of course you would have many ways to explain this thing. But when I defend of the individual spirituality is because someone could be in a phase of not being identified with no religious practices at all, as has happened to me. And because of that, the person feels disconnected to the force and to the path of, yeah, the path of the neutral chi, ki, yeah, ki. So, um, in order to not feel distant because they couldn't connect with any religious practices, they just started looking for the subject through their own eyes. So I do defend that, okay? Because if you're not feeling connecting to any religious concepts at all, that doesn't mean you don't have a lot going on your spiritual realms, because every one of us have it, okay? You maybe haven't been practicing it, and maybe you haven't been understanding that you have been accessing it, but you probably have been accessing it even without knowing, okay? So I do defend the individual practices of spirituality, most of all if they're in the direction and the intent for a greater cause, a greater good for the mankind. Even if it is about just evolving yourself and learning about love for yourself to transcend the barriers that we built against love because we were afraid to not be loved. And and I honestly think that if you think about it, as it's written in the Bible, if you got the Holy Spirit itself will help you to learn and understand the spiritual practices. So when you call for a force in the name of something of greater cause, a greater good, in the name of love, and because it's part of the programming of the earth to, when you look for something from the deepest within your heart, you will find it. I've gone so far. Yeah. Um, it will come to you, okay? Spirituality doesn't need a specific rule to be reached by you. So, yes, work on, if you're not identifying with other religions, look up for the spirituality within yourself. If you haven't tried yet, I would recommend for you to start asking for your inner being, your higher self, to connect with the power of love. That's all you need to ask, okay? Ask to see the power of love and ask for that bridge, that the bridge that represents our bridge to the lower forces. Ask that bridge to teach you how to do this, and it will, okay? So if you haven't tried yet to talk to the main forces because you're not being identified with no religions at all, you can look it up for yourself. You just have to look up for love. And believe me, if you're looking up for love, there is only one thing you will find, okay? Now, there will be distractions. There could be weird forces trying to distract you from the path of love. But if it is from within your heart, that decision of yours, it will happen. And no matter what other forces are trying to do against that, love always wins. And not only that, you have much more power than those who try to distract you. And it depends more on how much you are going to authorize them to distract you, okay? So if you're looking for love, it will answer to you, despite of any rules of any religions, okay? Because love wants to be found by you, okay? Now getting back here. um, Now let's enhance the card, right? I want to enhance the card. First of all, let's give it some. No, I think that's too big. Yeah, that's got to be. Um, the Pope, Pope Papa in Portuguese. But most of all, it's the Hierophant. So, yes, let's focus in here. We have two religious people by the feet of this man in a throne with a cross and a supposedly golden crown on the top of his head. He has his right hand pointing up to the sky, as in connecting to the information from the superior realms. And he's got a lot of protection from the red, because red represents that neutral key that I was talking about, and it represents the path of the middle. The path of the middle cannot be said in English. It's something like that, okay? And the path of the heart. Let's talk it like this because it's going to be more comprehensible. And the fact that we're talking about a gray scenery behind him, we're talking about the structures of society. And when we're talking about the structures of society and the fact that everything is so organized, it's so symmetrical, even the ladder is so symmetrical, we are talking about something that is organizing materials purposes and earth resources, as in material, any sort of material resources, to make something come to fruition. But in this case, because this person is already connected with his seventh chakra, meaning this spiritual connection, this spiritual guidance that comes to him naturally, he's the one in color. And that's why you have a black and white scenery, let's say it like this, because it's gray, right? And this man is bringing life. It's bringing energy of love. It's bringing energy of spirituality. And apparently, he's got purity in his heart, and he's been blessed to do this. And because of that, he has some other spiritual people working to his favor. Okay, also beneath his feet, if you see, there is also a pair of keys that are all also very symmetric to each other. And we cannot forget that at this point of our interpretation, the keys, they represent a lot of things that we can open. We cannot think of keys in tarot, we cannot think of keys as objects. Keys, they are opening or locking something. And in the case that you have two keys, you can do both. You can open and lock. So those keys, they're talking about this power of creating opened paths. And those keys, they represent the ability to access this sacred path, because if you look at his feet, you will see that it's based on something really pure and innocent because it's white, but on the top of it, you will see a pair of crosses, one for each feet, meaning that his purpose is actually sacred. Okay? So, yes, when we're talking about you're having a consultation about tarot and this card appears, there will be probably a lot of wisdom coming to your way. And when I'm talking about wisdom, I don't mean societies, I mean the spiritual ones. And it's super interesting to talk about this because the spiritual wisdom, they sometimes feel super weird because they are not the obvious solution. They are not the most comfortable for you. They are not what you were expecting for, but they're totally based on truth and reality. So they will also help you fall down from any illusions that you may have created. And yes, this card has a lot of meaning. It's as big as the High Priestess, but I think I'm exploring more of it because this role in our society has been so big, right? Um, yes, he's in based on sacred embasements. He's in based on sacred purposes. Yes, that's what I meant. And because of that, this is something that will be very important for your life, even more because if you are really having your soul journey, this spiritual wisdom, it's going to actually make more sense than the social wisdom, if I may make my personal comment about it. And it looks super weird, but it takes you further away on the direction of the places that you really want to go from deep within your soul and your heart. And yes, that's why this card is so important. So let me repeat. I'm starting by the 22 major arcana cards just as a starting point. I wouldn't read the tarot for anyone using only major arcana cards, okay? I would always mix with minor arcana because they will explain better the scenery, the situation, how will be the approach, and all of that. Okay, now let me diminish it back again to its original position. Okay, let me check how much time I got. Okay, and let me continue. So, the lovers. The lovers. For a really long time of my life, I had so much afraid of this card because I thought, oh my god, if I'm dating someone and this card appears, means I'm being betrayed. No, it's not that, okay? First, let's go through the technical part, and then later on we can discuss through the symbological meaning of it to open up our orientation to read it along with us. So, the imageries of the Lover's card depicts a man and a woman standing in a garden with an Archangel Raphael hovering above them. We can obviously see that they're naked. The card represents love, harmony, and the choices we make in relationships. The tree, the tree of knowledge with the serpent and the tree of life appear behind the figures, symbolizing the duality of the earthly and the divine. There's so much more to it than that, but still, it's a good summary. And sorry, guys, just a bit. On the right upright side, the lovers represent union, partnership, and the harmony of opposites. It symbolizes the deep connection between individuals and the choices that define our relationships. Philosophically speaking, this card speaks to a unity of dualities, the merging of the masculine and the feminine, and the higher love that transcends the physical plane. Psychologically speaking, the lovers explore the dynamics of relationships, the integration of different aspects of the self, and the choices that lead to personal growth. Mystically speaking, this card represents the divine union, the alchemical marriage, and the sacred bond between souls. Yeah, we're getting closer to the real meaning of it. When reversed, the lovers may indicate disharmony, imbalance, and conflict within relationships. It can suggest difficulty choices, a lack of alignment, or the struggle to reconcile opposite forces. Sorry about this. Psychologically speaking, the reversed lovers reflect inner conflict, unresolved emotional issues, or challenges in integrating different aspects of the self. Mystically speaking, this card warns of the dangers of neglecting the spiritual dimension of relationships, leading to a sense of disconnection or a loss of a higher purpose. Okay, now we're getting there. Let me tell you something about love when we're tapping into this card, okay? Let me tell you something about love. So, Love is free. Have you ever heard that sentence before? Yeah, love is free. Why is that so important? Because it is futile as trying to hold wind inside of your hands to try to hold love. You know those practices that they are considered like witchery, but poor witchery in when someone tries to spiritually attach someone that they want to have into their lives and everything goes wrong, but the person remains together with the other one, but with a terrible life. Yeah, honey, that's not love. Okay, those things they can be done, but that's not love. Love is more related to a lot of respect for each other's freedom. And that's kind of important to say because when I'm talking about the lovers, this is representing the real love affair, the passion, the inner guidance towards something or someone. And when I'm talking about this card is talking about such an irreversible truth that there is no judgment. I'm going to say something delicate, okay? But there is no judgment towards the relationships of love affairs because sometimes in the love affair is where the love really is. It happens a lot, right? Let's be realistic in here. Comme le français, on lui aime. Bon, je sais, I know that this may come as a shock. This may come as something quite aggressive, maybe against relationships, against traditional values, and la 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 la. La. It's not about that. It's about opening your eyes. Because sometimes, and I do know that some people are comfortably living a not truthful story with someone else with consentment because both sides want the same thing. I'm not against that. I'm not judging that perspective of anything. I'm not trying to judge anything in here. I could go through any of those things, probably. But my point is, if both sides agree on the debt, because if one of the sides don't agree to that, and if one of the sides has still its heart, it's as in his or her heart open, the reality, the truth will call the heart to live a truthful life. And that's when sometimes really long time marriages institutions fail because the agreement represented a truth from a past that may not be truth in the present or may even be truth in the present but may not be truthful in the future. Is that bad? Yes, I know that makes us cry. Believe me, I have cried for that several times. But I don't try anymore to hold the flow of life because that makes us spend a lot of energy. And yes, when we're talking about the lovers, sometimes it's a passion that you have that you cannot go against it. For example, my passion for spirituality. Maybe I am tiring people around me with that subject. People around me probably can't take it anymore. The amount of times that I talk about spirituality. But I can't get rid of it because it's actually my passion. I love it. I like it. And I actually wanted more. If I had more people to talk about spirituality, I would. And those conversations, they are very enriching for me. And so many of them allowed me to feel the presence of God, My beloved force, I love you so much. My great father of all the fathers, love figure of father and mother, love figure of father and mother. And okay, now let's go through the technical. No, let's go through the intuitive part of the card. Let me enhance the card. And get some coffee here. Mm. I know that people in the United States talk about a lot about Colombian coffee, but maybe because they didn't try Brazilian's coffee yet. Anyway, let's continue. So, first of all, we have a lot of good things in this card. Please realize we have a clear blue sky, which is talking about a clear minded person. We're talking about a very bright, shiny, sunny day. I was going to say the opposite. And we're talking about the symbol of an angel with his blessing open hands towards the humans. We can see that the trees are prosperous, abundant, giving a lot of fruits. We can see a lot of the elements of air as clouds, and that represents both connection with spiritual realms, but also a very thoughtful moment, a very ponderative moment, because air cards, they are talking about processing things through the mind, through pondering, okay? And we have the nudity expressing truth and expressing innocence, okay? Um, we have a mountain that if it comes to your eyes, you need to realize with yourself if you feel like the mountain seems to be in the beginning or in the end, if you have already climbed it, or if you're not interested in climbing it. All this information, they will give you a glimpse of the direction of the meaning of this card. So, for example, if you're talking about a relationship and this card appears, and you ask that mountain, okay, but mountain, am I in the beginning or in the end of the mountain? And it says to you, you are in the end of the mountain. That means that the biggest part of the challenge has already been crossed. But those things you are going to feel internally or hear it in your thoughts, okay? Um, Also, there is one more thing in here because this is also talking about the duality because we're talking about feminine and masculine forces in here in the same card, and that makes them being representing a role. No, not a role, a whole, as in a whole. And the fact that on the top of the card we have a semicircle insinuating the sun, light, and if it was complete would be a full circle. It's also talking about a lot of spirituality. So believe me, this relationship could even be spiritually protected, even if it is out of a marriage. Because I'm sorry to say this, but marriage is not about the paper. It's not about showing up so pretty in the church. Marriage is actually a connection authorized from both hearts. And yes, sometimes you are married in a paper situation, but your heart is not really married. Your heart no longer desires to be by the side of your husband or wife. And this is reality, and I'm sorry. And because of that, the truth is what's going to be protected by spirituality, always. And when I say that, I try to be delicate about it because I know how painful this subject can be for a lot of girls and a lot of guys. And not only that, but if that's as I'm saying, if the lovers are marrying into their hearts There are no forces against it that could be strong enough to separate them, because when a bond is established from starting from the heart, honey, it's an eternal type of bond. It is highly difficult that you would get to break something with and based in real love. And accept the flow of life, understand that there is a bigger wisdom that knows the reason of all the things that we don't understand. But still, something good is going to come out of it. And if you have faith enough, as I have been testing my own faith, if something bad happens to you, you will remember to thank the force, because some knows are protective knows too, okay? So I hope that it doesn't bother you. But believe me, once you aligned with your inner truth and your life with that inner truth, nothing will be able to break your strength, because when you choose to be truthful to who you are and to yourself, the world align to present what would be the world's reaction of your truthful energy. And because you will be being yourself, what you will receive will be energetically aligned with your inner being. So even, and I know that I'm weird and I like that, and I take pride of that, because I like being so my own personal way and not let fashion destroy it. With no disrespect for fashion at all, believe me, I love it. It's just that I don't understand why people follow trends and don't think for themselves. We don't have to dress alike. We can be very, have express our own characteristic ways, right? Anyway, getting back to the subject. So, yes, sometimes spirituality protects these sorts of relationships because they are, just a moment, please. Sorry, guys, I had a brief interruption. Getting back here. So yes, truth. Surrender to the truth. It will lead you to better places. And even if they scare you now, you will like them when you're there, and you will like them even better than where you are now. Okay. So yes, we have what I want to do about this card is something extra information, as sometimes I do. What is the mystical meaning of Archangel Raphael, and what is his participation into humans' everyday's lives? Please. This is important because this angel is who is blessing the truth. So if you think about it, I'm not sharing with you the screen, but I will read it for you guys because it's just a recent research that I just did to complement the information on the Lover's cards. So, what says in here is basically like this: He's healer of the physical and spiritual ailments Most renowned for his role as a healer, he's called upon to heal not only physically illnesses, but also emotional and spiritual ones. He's a guide and a protector, also for the travelers. He brings bringer of divine knowledge, patron of healers. So his meaning is about everyday healing, guidance in decision making, protection during travels, emotional and mental support, inspiration for healers and helpers. Okay, so he's really protecting this energy of the lovers. And when we're talking about this, it's also some sort of blessing because the honest of your heart that led you to live what you are living, whatever difficult decision it may be, whatever it is to open a company with someone or a relationship. Um, it's actually being blessed, so that is a good thing. And we're talking about a being blessing you that can see more things than you can see. So even though sometimes you try to process this whole information with your mind, sometimes there's a lot more to it than only thoughts. And sometimes there are sensitive information. And that's most of all how the angels talk to us. So you really have to start learning to judge your senses. What are they telling you? What are they trying to advise you to do? Because those are your senses. I hope you trust them, okay? Let me see how much time I got. Just a bit. Okay, I'll try to do one more card. And the Chariot. Until today, this card to me has so many mysteries that I always feel like I can take away 100,000 meanings out of it. So, this card is really something, okay? So, the imagery of the Chariot. The Chariot, which is the seventh card numbered, is driven by a figure who controls two sphinxes, one black and one white, symbolizing opposite forces. The charioteer holds no reins, relying on the willpower and determination to guide the chariot forward. The stars above represent cosmic forces, while the city behind symbolizes the material world. Continuing on the technical part of it. On the upright side, the chariot represents determination, willpower, and the triumph of the spirit over obstacles. It symbolizes the journey towards self mastery and the ability to harness opposing forces to achieve one's goals. Philosophically speaking, the chariot teaches the importance of discipline, focus, and the power of the will in overcoming challenges. Psychologically speaking, it represents the conscious mind ability to direct the subconscious, the integration of opposites, and the pursuit of personal goals with determination. And mystically speaking, the chariot is the vehicle of the soul, symbolizing the journey towards enlightenment and the mastery of the material world. On the reversed sides, the chariot may indicate a lack of direction, a loss of control, or a difficulty in overcoming obstacles. It can suggest internal conflict, of a lack of willpower, or challenges in maintaining focus. Psychologically speaking, the reversed chariot reflects the struggle to align inner forces, leading to a sense of being pulled in different directions or failure to assert one's will. And mystically speaking, this card warns of the dangers of being disconnected from the higher self, leading to a loss of purpose and direction on the spiritual path. It kind of said everything that I'm scared of. So, about being in control, I love it, but I'm against it. I think that we should have faith enough to trust the flow of life to run naturally. And precisely because of that, I'm against those spiritual works to do material things happen. I trust more in the faith process to be more fair, if I can say it like this. And when I look at this card, I see this very brave man. He's got a star on his seventh chakra, along with a crown, along with a long hair. He's representing strength, spiritual strength. He's representing a clear minded person. He's representing that person ready to be called for action. He's also talking about an embasement of spirituality and the ability to bring things from spiritual realms into the material world. And when we're talking about this, I'm really talking about materializing things, not only advising people. And because there is some sort of a Pluto Mercury and the symbol of those wings with a yellow circle in the middle of it. It is also talking about a lot of wisdom that was also acquired from having gone through shadowy moments in its life. Not shadowy as in lack of integrity, but shadowy as in a lot of bad things that happened to that person that made him learn and shape his character as it is today. And not only that, but if you realize those sphinx, they are with their colors changed, which is not only talking about duality but also balance, because they are almost exchanging their colors as the yin and yang symbol. So we're talking about a man that comes from a lot of social structure, because that is in the back of his life, so it's in the past, but he came from a lot of structure, apparently high society structure, but he's being very spiritually guided while he faces with a lot of bravery the journey ahead. It doesn't mean that he knows the path, but it means that he trusts his inner senses to guide him well through the journey. Also, because there is a lot of white and a lot of spiritualized symbols in this card, it is also talking about the fact that he goes protected, spiritually guided, and there is also talking a little bit of the fact that he can see through the darkness, meaning he can realize lies underlying some truths or same or half truths, right? So we're talking about a man in very much power and control of the journey ahead. Maybe not in control because he knows everything, but he has a lot of control of himself. He's going along with it to follow his path with a lot of faith, and he isn't based in great, huge concepts. So when we're talking about this personality, we're not talking about someone frivolous nor futile. We're talking about someone who may be very deep in his heart, may be very not versatile, versatility. He's got some, yeah, he's got some culture and basement. Okay, so when we're talking about the chariot, if this card appears for you, it is such a good sign. And sometimes I felt doubt, because if you look at these things, they're seeming to point to different sides. So previously I was afraid, like, oh my god, too many choices, which one am I going to choose? They point to different directions, but it's not all about that, okay? They're more looking to all of the sides because of protection. And when I understood that, I felt such a huge relief. Because if you look at their position right now, it's not like if they're horses taking a chariot. It looks like more that they're kind of resting. If you look at it, they have a peace-minded position in there with resting positions. Okay, so this also the fact that there is a bright day behind him, on above him, it is also talking about a man with a lot of clarity. So he has pondered everything through his journey. He has thought of everything that he may need, that he think that he maybe needed to be prepared for. It's not just an occasional and rebellious thing out of the blue. I don't know how you guys say it, but out of nowhere. It's not out of nowhere. It's something that he, even if he hasn't told anyone, he has been planning it for a really long time. So at this point, sometimes we feel like, oh, you don't need to give me protection advices because I have already gone through all that subject. And still, our mom comes in, oh, but you have to take your coat. Okay, let them be moms. Okay, I'm one of them and I understand them now. I took a really long time to understand that, but it's a mom thing. We have to do that because otherwise, feel like we're letting the kids forget, and we don't want that. um, so anyway, this was the second class. I hope that you guys have enjoyed it so far. Remember that if you want this content with enhanced knowledge, it will be available here in the channel for you guys for about 2 months. Later, it will be transferred for people who has the membership access to loveandmoonboutique.com. And loveandmoonboutique.com, by the way, I love you guys. I love everything that you are building, on the purpose along with it, and everything that you are creating side by side with it, because you deserve to be big. I wish for you to be super big, okay? Thank you guys for being in here with me today, or any other day that you may watch this. Thank you, and I hope you're enjoying the content. If you are, remember to give us your likes, subscribe yourself to the channel, and press the little bell so you can receive the notification for the other events. And I hope everything goes well for you throughout the week, and feel very blessed and fulfilled and connected to your heart's desires, okay? So you're not gravity, but your magnetized forces can bring everything that you want into your direction, okay? Kisses in your heart, and feel the enjoyment of life. Bye bye. I should without sharing the screen.